And, I'll throw one other thing out here. God talked about a Sabbath.
On your rest.
A day of rest.
On your rest.
I believe what the Sabbath is representative of is it's us disengaging from what we engage in all week and disengaging from that and resting. And so it doesn't mean I can't mow my yard. It does. But it's focusing on what I enjoy outside of that work realm and turning things off and just being intentional about taking that day. Right. And it's just it's a key thing. God knows what we need to refresh us.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a certain day of the week.
No.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
I love this scripture in Ephesians. It says, so be careful how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those who are wise.
Don't do it to yourself.
Yeah. Make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. Don't act thoughtlessly, but understand what the Lord wants you to do. It's interesting that word evil, when you see it in other places, it actually means full of labors, annoyances, or hardships. So think about it. So basically what Paul is saying is make the most of what God has given you, knowing that the days are what? Full of work, annoyances, and hardships, and stress, and all of those things that we struggle with as men. Mm-hmm. When I went through the season that I went through, we'd been at my mother-in-law's, I turned 50. That Father's Day that year, I had got an email from my oldest daughter. And she wrote this long email about how I had been an example to her as a father and shown her what to look for in a husband and how a wife should be treated. And it was just the most powerful email. And I remember in 1992, at that moment when I decided to be intentional, I wrote what I call a tribute statement of what I wanted my kids to say about me at my funeral. And I remember specifically what I said about my daughters was that my dad loved me unconditionally. I always felt like I was his number one. He was my hero. And this was 12, 13 years later. And the last sentence in her email was, "You're my hero." Wow. Mm-hmm. And she never knew what my tribute statement was. Yeah. But I think what I realized in that moment and what God showed me is you are a success, Ronnie.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. Because you took the time to invest in what was most important. Yeah. And even though you feel like a failure, you're basing that on things that aren't real, Mm-hmm. Who cares if you're living with your mother-in-law?
Right.
That's not what the most important thing is. And I just want to, I think, challenge us as men is to be intentional about, focusing in on what's most important, and that's our families.